breaking down the Trump cabinet and the ongoing jockeying over the competing diagnoses over why Kamala Harris lost this election. The shorthand for that is all of the consultants, lobbyists, and staffers who ran this campaign are telling you not to listen to people like them, but not them specifically, just the concept in general. But before I get to things, though, about people who are breaking for Kamala or who have things to say about this election, I do want to turn now to this New York Times op-ed by this guy, Adam Jentleson, Adam Gentleben. And he's got an op-ed in the New York Times titled, "When Will Democrats Learn to Say No?" That a lot of people like John Favestar are touting. He says here, basically, John Favestar's review of this is that, quote, Dems should resist any group or special interest that pressures them to take positions opposed by the electoral majority essential to win, whether that's big corporations, rich donors, nonprofits, whoever. This isn't about blaming specific groups for defeat. It's about what's required to win.
I'm assuming that AIPAC comes up in here, right?
Actually, would you believe that I did a word search and could not find AIPAC, Gaza, Palestine, or Israel anywhere in
that's
this?
Weird. Must have been an oversight. Adam Jentleson, by the way, this guy probably loves goy slop with that name. My first encounter with him was in 2020. It was like right after the wheels sort of fell off the Bernie campaign, and some Warren lady was saying something like, "The future of the left can't be led by Bernie people," and I quote tweeted her with something, and he freaked out on me. He sent me a DM and said, "How could you quote tweet a 24-year-old woman like that?" And it's like, would it be okay if she was 27? Like, what?
Yeah, the age just keeps getting higher and higher.
Yeah. Human shields. The use of human shields is abhorrent, and I won't stand for it.
She was 24. She was a fucking kid. You fucking animal.
This guy, he's formerly of working for John Fetterman and Harry Reid. And I just want to dig into this for a second because I'm just going to jump to the middle of it. He says, unlike Democrats, Mr. Trump engaged in what I call supermajority thinking, envisioning what it would take to achieve an electoral realignment and working from there. Supermajority thinking is urgently needed at this moment. We have been conditioned to think of our era of polarization as a stable arrangement of rough parity between the parties that will last indefinitely. But history teaches us that such periods usually give way to electoral realignments. Last week, Trump showed us what a conservative realignment can look like. Unless Democrats want to be consigned to minority status and be locked out of the Senate for the foreseeable future, they need to counter by building a supermajority of their own. That starts with picking an ambitious electoral goal, say the 365 electoral votes Barack Obama won in 2008, and thinking clearly about what Democrats need to do to achieve it. Democrats cannot do this as long as they remain crippled by a fetish for putting coalition management over a real desire for power. Whereas Mr. Trump has crafted an image as a different kind of Republican by routinely making claims that break with the party line on issues ranging from protecting Social Security and Medicare to mandating insurance coverage of in vitro fertilization. Democrats remain stuck trying to please all of their interest groups while watching voters of all races desert them over the very stances that these groups impose on the party. So a couple things here. I mean, like he says here, we should pick an ambitious electoral goal, and the electoral goal is just winning a lot of electoral votes. And that seems to be putting the cart before the horse.
It's also like, if we are going to take this at face value from Favreau and Jentleson, the objective version of events is there were all these groups that were glorified get out the vote operations. That's basically what these interest groups are. Any Democratic Party friendly kind of identity focused group is just a get out the vote operation. And briefly, some of those groups were used as a cudgel against Bernie in 2016. So guys like Jentleson and Favreau saw that and probably knew that, but were like, this is pretty persuasive though. I know we're just cynically using this, but this is pretty persuasive. We should talk like this. And now, 8 years later, they're like, well, it turns out that's actually the sole reason we lost, and it had nothing to do with Joe Biden being 82 fucking years old. But now
that's the big thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how that isn't the number one thing by like a light year. Is that the president is senile. He's still senile. We can all see it, and they lied to our face about it. And then they put another person in his place like 2 months before the election, and then she was also lying about it.
Yeah,
and not distancing them for like that destroyed the party for a generation. Having Joe Biden's senile ass, and then having every journalist just lie to everyone's face about it. Even like left liberal people just fucking lying about it. Like in like 2020, it was a conspiracy theory to say he might be senile. You were crazy. You were a crazy person, and like you weren't allowed to publish something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how light they got off, considering how blatantly and for how long they fucking lied about this. Like,
it's actual elder abuse. People should go to jail. Like Joe Biden should go to jail, and Hunter should get pardoned.
But yeah, so like going back to like the shit about interest groups, though, their line is like basically all of this stuff was incredibly persuasive to us for the last 8 years. But now we realize it was bad. So you should trust our judgment when we say, okay, just totally jettison this stuff that we pretended to care about for 8 years, and then we'll win. No, your judgment is fucking forfeit then. You're a fucking idiot. If that's the case, you're fucking stupid.
Yeah, like what's the actual platform?
Well, yeah,
you get rid of all the woke stuff, and it's just like the stuff Joe Biden did for unions. Well, it didn't work. It wasn't enough. Whatever it wasn't enough. Like the economic stuff that he did. Like, I guess people didn't like it.
He says here, ruthlessly prioritizing winning will make the groups mad, and that's okay. In fact, it will be good for them. Groups have become too accustomed to enjoying access without holding themselves accountable. The question, is this tactic more likely to trigger backlash than advance our goals, is the single most important one, yet it seems to be rarely asked by many of the group's leaders or funders. I would say a slightly more important question than that is, what is our goals? Like, what are our goals here? What are we attempting to do? Because the groups that he mentions in this group, in this op-ed, are the ACLU, the Sunrise Movement, and the Working Families Party. And look, if you want to tell all those groups to take a hike and go fuck themselves, that's fine with me. But like, he's like unspoken in all of this is certainly AIPAC, because you want to talk about a group that is not only spent $100 million trying to defeat Democrats, but like cajoled the party into taking a disastrously unpopular stance that on an issue that people care deeply about. You'd think you start there, but it's not just them. How about Tony West? How about like the Wall Street? Like, how about like the corporate wing of the party that stopped, that, you know, sort of like strangled in the crib any attempts for Kamala to even like try to run against big business? But but once again, unspoken here is what is the goals that Gentle Ben wants to advance here?
Because like the ACLU, what fucking effect did the ACLU have on the fucking election?
It was that
at least compared to Joe Biden.
It was the questionnaire that they gave to candidates where Kamala gave her answer about transgender surgeries for inmates in California.
Yeah, it's been completely misrepresented because all they asked was, what are you going to do for trans people? And she could have just said, well, Trump is going to do this and this and this, and I'm against that. And it would have been fine. But she said, I want to pay to give prisoners trans surgeries. Like, she volunteered that out of nowhere, wasn't asked about prisons, wasn't asked about prisoners. She said that. And then they're blaming it on the ACLU. Like, the ACLU said, do you support using taxpayer money to give trans surgeries to prisoners?
Yeah.
And she said, well, yes. Like, that's not what the interview says.
Yeah.
They didn't say that. That's her saying that because she's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Which is why she got 1% of the vote in the primary. We're never going to hear from her ever again. They're just going to put her back in her coffin. They're just going to give her benzos until she goes to sleep forever. She couldn't even find a husband. They had to give her one. That's how much she sucks. Her own dad doesn't like her. And he's Jamaican, so he must be pretty chill.
But yeah. I mean, going from like a candidate who is dying, who like presided over an economy that everyone fucking hated, no matter how many times you tell people, no, actually, it's great. You're doing great. A candidate that torched everyone's fucking trust in everything. replacing him with someone who is more tied to him than she is anyone or any other entity, and who, while at that, made every fucking boneheaded decision that she could possibly make. Like, after about August, that campaign made the worst single decision they could make in almost every single instance. It's kind of amazing how it wasn't really a landslide. I mean, in the Electoral College, certainly, but it's sort of amazing that, it wasn't like a 2008 style popular vote blowout. Anything but the most obvious answers.
Yeah, Felix, I've been going through a lot of these postmortems, and I've word searched all of them, and it is astonishing the way every single one of them does not mention Israel or Palestine once at all.
Yeah, and like
it's just been completely written out of the question of like why did voters not like Kamala Harris, or the question of interest groups forcing the Democrats into unpopular positions.
Right, and none of us are saying that like they single-handedly won or lost or could have won the election based on Israel policy. But the idea that you are campaigning on being like the adults in the room who have a unique handle on global affairs, and every time people look at what is going on outside of America, they're looking at Biden's signature foreign policy moves after Afghanistan, and they see nothing but fucking disaster, that does have an effect.
Yeah, just you're getting tricked.
Yeah.
I'm getting tricked by Netanyahu over and over again, pulling away the football. Like this, it doesn't even seem like they have a handle on it. Like they're just flailing around in the water, but also aiding and abetting a genocide at the same time. And then being like, I don't know. Sorry guys. We're going to have to keep doing it.
That's like the most generous interpretation of what happened. That is the interpretation they want people to believe, that they are constantly getting fucking fooled.
Yeah, either way, no matter how you swing it, they just look like pieces of shit. Like if you're that Zionist, you're just a Republican. If you support all that shit outright, you're just a Republican.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, and that seems to be the message here is that, like, okay, well, we have to win elections. Well, Donald Trump just won an election, so why not just be Republicans? And left unsaid in this is like, the fact that like every single actual policy that's associated with Donald Trump and the Republicans are brutally unpopular, and that is no impediment to them winning elections. But the difference is they actually believe in it. They know what their agenda is, and they're not afraid to run on it.
Well,
and
making all groceries $1, that's pretty popular. That's a signature policy. The second he's elected or he's inaugurated, you're going to go to Walmart and everything in there is going to be $1. It's like Dollar Tree, how it used to be. It's going to be awesome. A gallon of milk, $1. A loaf of bread, $1. A microwave, $1. It's going to be the Trump economy, and it's going to be so good.
Speaking of getting fooled, another thing he writes here is the groups also pollute the talent pipeline by training young people in magical thinking, teaching them to apply movement tactics to every issue instead of inculcating them with a disciplined practice of smart politics. This is primarily the fault of the leaders, not the use, since many bosses claim to live in fear of being canceled by their young staff members. Yet having managed dozens of junior staffers in progressive institutions for more than a decade, I know it's possible to listen to and learn from their concerns and create a supportive work environment while also setting clear boundaries and expectations. So he's basically saying like, oh, the problem is that like it's polluted the talent pool by making making us afraid of everyone who works for us. Like again, I don't buy this for a second.
If the party was so afraid of that type of stuff, they wouldn't have a rapist pedophile in Bill Clinton speaking at the last 3 fucking conventions.
Isn't that the kind of environment Obama came out of? Like, wasn't he one of those idealistic youths with the nonprofits and stuff? And it doesn't seem like it stopped him from doing everything mainstream Democrats want. Like, he became very cynical. He became the exact type of person they want young people to be.
And like the headline of this article is, will Democrats learn to say no? And again, I hate to harken back to it, but like we've just lived through a whole year of them saying no to anyone who's like, can you please stop killing people in Palestine? They can say no really easy when it comes to things like that, but for some reason, it's their staffers that are just sort of intimidating them and taking these unpopular stances. But again, just like Jentleson himself does not outline a single stance that he believes in or thinks is worth fighting for.
Well, yeah, this is the essence of popularism, right?
Yeah.
You say we should do things that are popular and not do things that are unpopular. And that could be fucking anything. And so when you succeed, you look like a fucking genius. And when the party fails, oh, well, you shouldn't have done all those unpopular things that I will not explicitly name.
He goes on here. He says, Democrats need to strip our messaging down to the studs and focus on the enduring issues that have stood the test of time. It is highly persuasive to give voters basic information in clear terms about Democrats' positions on Social Security and Medicare, healthcare, prescription drug pricing, abortion rights, and tax policy. I mean, he doesn't mention what any of his positions are on any of those issues. Every interest group comes armed with polls of questionable quality showing their issue is popular. But we should instead focus on what's been tried and tested. One way to do this is for Democrats to stop filling out interest group questionnaires and using their websites to placate them by listing positions on every issue under the sun. This is where opponents go to mine for Oppo, as they did for Mrs. Harris. So he's saying don't have unpopular positions. But it's also he's saying don't have positions. And don't list the positions on your website.
Well, he says, just going to make them up.
Yeah.
They're just going to make them up. It's 2024. You cannot put that on your website. They're going to say you support whatever. Like you support top surgery and bottom surgery for all prisoners, mandatory. You think all pregnancy should be aborted. That's what she believes. I heard it on Facebook.
There are like Republicans who campaigned on the idea that Joe Biden is like an enemy of Israel. Like it doesn't matter what you do or what you say.
He says Democrats should seek out issues that demonstrate their willingness to fight for their constituents and break with progressive orthodoxy. The emerging concept known as supply-side progressivism offers a good guide embracing limited deregulation that advances liberal policy goals. That's the closest thing he gets to staking out a position here is supply-side progressivism.
That's what you want to call it?
Yeah, like it's just like tax cuts for, I don't know, tax cuts for vegetarians. And then, but then he uses an example here. Democratic candidates such as Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez of Washington opposed regulations that prevent daycare workers from peeling fresh fruit for kids and a mandate for new safety features on table saws that would have made the saws so expensive that people would simply use circular saws, likely resulting in more severed fingers. Okay, I got to talk about this Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez person because I've been seeing like she's getting a lot of heat now because like she won in like a red district in Washington, and they're like, oh, she's talking common sense solutions that jive with like what her constituents are saying. And what I have to say about her is like, look, if these regulations are stopping daycare workers from giving fruit to kids, sure, that seems like an issue worth considering. You should be allowing fruit to be served at daycare centers or whatever. But like, it does seem to me that like as the manifestation of the kind of the political program being prescribed here, it just seems to be like politics is just whatever the last one of your constituents told you about last. And I really don't think that this is like a vision for a national political party. And also, Marie Gluesenkamp is a weirdo. She has a very weird way of speaking, and she also
has Adderall jaw.
Yeah. She's like she's a very disquieting sort of aura to her. And to add to that, she did just vote for that bill that would have given Trump the legal authority to strip nonprofit status from any pro-Palestinian organization in the country. But
once again, they get to make profits now. Oh, that's awesome. IPO coming soon.
Also, like I don't know if people read either the table saw thing or the banana peeling thing. In the banana peeling thing, there was like nothing in there that says they can't peel bananas. This is Ronald Reagan shit. Where you'd say, oh, there's a government regulation against this. Confident that no one will actually check it. Just so you can position.
Like, has there been a daycare teacher that's been fired for that or sued for that for peeling a banana? I don't think so. Because if there was, you would put her in the ads.
Yeah, it's just incredibly fucking lazy. And it's like, it is desperately searching for an opportunity to position yourself against regulation in pursuit of what exactly?
again, like what's unsaid in all these things is like, is he is prescribing the Democratic Party moving to the right on all of these tried and true issues. Because like, if he talks about like issues that are tried and true rather than these, group tested nonsense, how come there's nothing about like universal health care or expanding Social Security and Medicare? Expanding unionization, things like that. I mean, like these would be the tried and true things of a Democratic Party of an earlier era. But instead, he's like, we need to do tried and true things like listening to your daffiest constituent talk about banana peels and circular saws, and then working backwards as a government, just being like, what can we do to make it easier to do carpentry in one district in Washington? And he closes out by saying, those who would rather lose elections so they can feel better about themselves leave the real suffering to the people they claim to fight for. No one wins. You lost the election. You lost the fucking election, you cocksucker. He says, no one wins when we lose. It's time to start winning again. Take advice from me, a fucking loser. Jesus Christ.
They're just going to run on deregulating shit like that. Like, what is the platform? I don't understand.
And like, look, okay, Donald Trump and the Republican Party they're against abortion. They just overturned Roe v. Wade and won an election. Seems like a winning platform. Let's get on that.
Yeah, like it's so just contentless.
Yeah, it's just saying like we should have common sense Democrats who say I'm a common sense Democrat.
That's all they want.
Yeah, I'm wearing a hard hat and a jean jacket, and I believe in common sense. And maybe the government's not always right. And I think we need to think about like that's just what they want. They want a speech like that, and then everything else is just the same. Just more people like more Democrats with like fake hunting jackets on in TV ads. Like, okay, that's like not a substantive criticism.
Yeah, Democrats have been wearing the same fucking Carhartt jacket since 2004. He's describing John Kerry's campaign, basically.
Yeah, going to NASCAR.
And once again, like, the problem with John Kerry's campaign is that he, in fact, did vote for the Iraq War before he voted against it. Yeah, and, I really doubt that Adam Jentleson, you want to talk about another tried and true coalition? How about being against war? But no, that's not on the fucking table. And once again, to go back to what you said, Felix, it's like they've all diagnosed the problem is the identity politics groups that they all promoted and fucking rolled over for 8 years ago. And they're saying, yeah, like this is the reason we lost this election. So we need to replace identity politics with what? With deregulation and common sense solutions and Marie Gluesenkamp Perez and whatever the fuck her, like, whatever some person at a town hall told her like a week ago. I mean, I remember reading about Marie Gluesenkamp Perez because after Kamala lost, she had some quote in the media about how when she was at the White House or some event with Christmas trees at the White House that were fake Christmas trees, she took it upon herself to start telling Kamala about how they grow Christmas trees in her district, and the White House should really get the real Christmas trees from Washington in her district. And I know this is what you're supposed to do as a congressman, and this was played off like, oh, Kamala just basically like stared at her and walked away and was like, that's nice. I never felt more sympathy for Kamala in that moment than I did reading about her, just having to hear about this bird brains fucking Christmas trees.
Like, her talking to Kamala about this Christmas tree bullshit, that is like the Goku versus Vegeta of like woman autism. That is the Batman versus Superman of strange women.
Don't they have trees on the East Coast? It just makes no sense. Talk about inefficiency and common sense. Like that would be a thing that they would point to. Like imagine if that actually happened and the White House was ordering their Christmas trees from Oregon, Eastern Washington and having them shipped across the whole country, and each one of them cost like $780 because of shipping and just the weight of those things. And then they get there and they're all the leaves are falling off. That would be a thing they would point to. Like, look at how inefficient and stupid the government is. There's some weird little footnote that says we have to get the trees from Washington because some Democratic congressperson lives in Washington and she wants us to do that, even though there are trees here and we could do it cheaper. Like that's just a new thing that they could a new thing Alex, that they could complain about.
We got to stop being beholden to these Christmas groups and their Christmas questionnaires asking us what presents we want.
Yeah. Big Santa.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I chose that op-ed because it's just very very indicative of this entire. I mean, like basically everyone who just lost this election now chiming up to tell you, you know, why they should be listened to.
It is like just completely like contentless. It is like the only concrete goal or policy or really anything you walk away from that is like, we should do as well as Obama.
Yes.
Wow, holy shit,
like I said,
Adam. What an amazing idea.
He said our goal should be to get the same amount of electoral votes that Obama did.
That's Adam, that's fucking incredible. We need to get all these people out of the party who said our goal is to do as well as John Kerry. Because he turns out he lost and Obama won. You're a fucking genius, man.
Yeah, that does it for Adam Gentleben.